Hold on one second. We about to get to the bottom of this, ladies and gentlemen. This don't make no sense whatsoever. Welcome to the Dark Waters channel, where we explore mysteries, figure out the truth, dive into politics, and anything else you want to know about. That's what we doing over here, baby. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and cats, the one and only Dark Waters is back, and I told you that there was warfare going on. And we have to ask ourselves a question. Why is the media going so hard on Joe Biden? And the fact that of the obvious thing that we all know that Joe Biden wasn't up to par. When we know that, it makes them look hypocritical. You know what I'm saying? What is going on? I'm going to tell you what I think is going on. I think what's happening is the mainstream media, who has been in lockstep for a very long time with the traditional Democratic Party, the old guard of the Democratic Party, is now going on a full-on assault campaign against the leftists, extreme leftists of the Democratic Party. In fact, I could be off. Let's park it at this. The media is going to war with the Democratic Party. And it only can mean one or two things. Maybe they actually believed that Joe Biden was in good health. And maybe all the information that they got was telling them that Joe Biden was in good health. And maybe they just saying, you know what? We're going to strike back at the Democratic Party because of this. The media is also known as the fifth estate. And it's kind of interesting to see them strike out at the Democratic Party. I mean, it really is, especially after months and months and months and months and years of them striking out at conservatives. It's really interesting. Watch. AOC dodges questions about Biden's mental acuity as a new book set to reveal just how bad it was, refusing to acknowledge cover-up, and claims Harris ran an excellent campaign. Now, the timing of this is interesting because they could have hit them with this going into the 2026, midterms. They're not. They're getting it out of the way early. So I think this is a vendetta that they have against the Democrats. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez on Wednesday was asked about the Democratic cover-up of Biden's mental acuity on the campaign trail, and she dodged the question with the word salad answer about the risk of change in a nominee so close to the election. Can I get a clip? Here it is. Let's get the clip of it.
Last year, you were defending Joe Biden, saying he should not drop out of the race. There have been all these reports now on his mental acuity at the time. Were Democrats being straightforward about his condition at the time of last year?
Well, listen, I think for me and for many of us at this time, there was this sudden discussion about, after a full primary process, about changing the nominee like 90 days before a presidential election. And so in my assessment, a move that was that unprecedented, having a brand new nominee 90 days before a presidential election against a nominee that had been running for 4 years straight, was a major risk. And so, I think regardless of what the situation was, it was such an unprecedented move that, I think everyone, in so much uncertainty, everyone had their own opinions on the matter, and we saw, what happened.
What
Vice President Harris ran.
Kind of answer is this?
But it was 90 or so days, and I think it was very, very hard I think it's very challenging for the American people to assess a new nominee 90 days out from the election.
Will there be blowback for Democrats for the way they handle Joe Biden? Will there be blowback for Democrats?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's up to every nominee and every candidate to make those decisions for themselves. He became the Democratic nominee through the electorate and through voters.
Wow. And guys, it's happening all over the place.
We're not shooting each other. We're not doing things that are what you consider animalistic, holistically.
I do not want to go into the untamed video footage of the Diddy freak off. Back to the point that I'm making. I showed you this Democratic warfare chart where they are at war, but the mainstream media is kicking in. You know what I'm saying? And they're pitching their part in. Here's Chuck Schumer. When Chuck Schumer came out, Chuck Schumer said, I'm not saying I knew Biden was fit in early 2024. That's it.
We're going to start with Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, who is live with us now from Capitol Hill. Senator Schumer, I'm so grateful to have you in the arena.
Good afternoon.
I want to start with this hold that you've put on these nominees, because, of course, Democrats have been pushing you and the colleagues of yours that you lead to do more to oppose President Trump. Is that what this is?
No, this is an issue of outright bribery and a serious issue of national security as well. To let any foreign country donate, quote unquote, a 747 that is the presidential plane, Air Force One, that's the most sophisticated plane in the world, more than any other plane. And there are huge security issues if someone else donates it. In fact, if this happens, and I pray to God that it doesn't because it's such a security risk, they'd have to take apart the entire plane down to the screws and nuts and bolts and see if any listening devices were implanted in it. So it's a huge national security issue. It's an issue of bribery. This is probably the biggest, I'm certain, it's the biggest gift, quote unquote, that has ever been given to a sitting president. And as your person said there, not only is there no free lunch, there's no free Air Force One.
I think I was saying it was my mother who frequently told me that.
Well, I'm glad to quote
no
your mother,
lunch.
Casey. She's a very...
Let me pause and let me say this about this damn jet, because this don't make no damn sense. And I'm just going to make a prediction on how this is going to play out. Everything that the Democrats ever bring to the forefront, if you haven't noticed this, every point of attack that they make ends up exposing them. It's purely the biblical example of every pig that you dig, you will fall into your own pit. And it just seems like they haven't learned to stop digging these pits. So let's go through the whole thing of the Air Force One jet given to President Donald Trump, or actually given to the Department of Homeland Security or whoever it was, the Pentagon. Let's go through the whole narrative of it and let it play out. And let's let them vet it all out. And in the process, watch every gift that every president has ever received from a foreign nation going to their foundations or their libraries is going to come to the forefront. It's almost like these people are so stupid they don't see that every move exposes them. So they're going to run it. They're going to run it. But we were trying to get to what he had to say about Joe Biden. Let's keep on listening.
wise woman.
Thank you very much, Senator. Bottom line here, though, it doesn't seem like anybody could actually stop this from happening. Is there anything you can do to stop it?
Well, you've heard even on your show, there are a whole lot of Republicans who are worried here. I hope they're worried about the bribery issue and the relationship that Trump has. You know, there's something called FARA, Foreign Agents Registration Act, that already this Justice Department has weakened. Who are the other Qatari agents here? What relationships have they had? What offers have they made to Donald Trump, to members of his family, to members of his administration? So there are so many issues here that I hope, we've already heard some Republican congressional people talk about how bad this is, and I hope there are some serious people within the administration who take our national security seriously who will tell Trump he can't do this. But it's outrageous. And by putting a hold, Casey, we'll be able to debate it, we'll be able to vote on these nominees, and I think the more sunlight that's brought to this issue, they didn't want to make it public, the greater the public outcry there will be, and hopefully that will persuade this administration to not do this not only dumb idea, but dangerous, dangerous idea.
Senator, I want to ask you also about what's been going on in the Democratic Party. You, of course, have come in for no small amount of criticism from members of your own party. I'm going to speak later in the hour with Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, who's talked about do-nothing Democrats, politicians, pundits. Do you think that he was including you in that criticism, and is there any validity to it?
All I know is that Democrats in the House and the Senate are fighting this new reconciliation bill tooth and nail. It's the largest Medicaid cut in history. If it happens, 14 million people will lose their health care between this and ACA. Many more will pay, their premiums will go through the roof. Rural hospitals, local hospitals will close. Many will be thrown out of work, and many more will not get health care. So
it's amazing that they would even, like, they just keep repeating these non-existent talking points. How many times have you heard over the past 100 days that people are going to lose their health care? Remember, it was Doge is going in, and Doge is looking at the numbers. People are going to lose their Medicare. They're going to lose their Medicaid. They're going to lose their health care. Hospitals are going to close. It's amazing that they just keep running the same BS over and over and over again. It's crazy. This is how you know it's pure on brainwashing. Because if I wanted to brainwash you, I would say the same thing over and 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 over again until it penetrated your mind and I made you believe it. But I don't believe in brainwashing you, even though I'm pretty damn good at doing it if I decided to. I don't believe in doing it. But that's all this is. It's pure NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, penetrating the minds of CNN watchers. Thank God many of you guys don't spend time watching CNN. This is probably as much of CNN as you will ever see is when you see it with me. But the whole point of this, we're trying to get to his comments on Joe. We should be getting there.
So we are together. We're on our front foot. We're fighting very hard on this issue, and that's why the Republicans are having such trouble putting their reconciliation bill together. We're fighting on this. We're fighting on Social Security. And then finally, when you realize they're cutting Medicaid, cutting health care, going after Social Security,
why are you looking at the ground?
All for tax breaks for the billionaires, it's outrageous. And the public is on our side on this issue.
I do hear the Democratic messaging that you always say that the Republic is on the side for. Sir, I really do want to ask you about something that has been breaking out.
She acknowledged it as messaging. Yeah, I do hear the Democratic messaging.
Out of CNN, our Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson have written a book called Original Sin, and they call it a cover-up of Biden's health and his cognition and his fitness, quite frankly, to be president of the United States. You sat next to Biden in the Oval Office February 27th, 2024, just a handful of months before the president took that debate stage. And it was later reported that you and other Democratic leaders were talking before the debate about having a plan. You and Hakeem Jeffries, Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama. I understand you later denied that that ever happened. But I am curious, I'm interested to know whether the man that you saw sitting there on that couch on that day, you were in there, you saw him up close and personal. Did you really not have any idea that he was not fit to serve a second term?
Casey, we're looking forward. We have the largest Medicaid cut in front of us. We have the whole federal government at risk.
You're facing all of this because you lost a presidential election. And is that not Joe Biden's responsibility for deciding to run again?
We're looking forward.
That's it?
That's it.
All right. Senator Chuck Schumer, I know you got to go. I appreciate your time today. We'll see you soon, I hope. Thank you.
Take care.
All right.
We're looking forward. There's no way that the Democrat Party gets around this issue of Joe Biden. I said it the other day, the only way they get around this issue of Joe Biden is if Joe Biden is gone bye-bye. It's a very dangerous time for old Joe. It's a very, very dangerous time for old Joe. Joe Biden secretly spent time in the hospital last week for a new health concern. Spock refuses to elaborate on detail. I'm telling you, it's a dangerous time for old Joe. Because the only way this narrative goes away is that they can put Joe in a pine box. And they can rewrite the history of what happened with Joe. And poor old Joe. I said when Joe was in office, you could see it was elder abuse. It was elder abuse. Now, that don't mean the fact that Joe wasn't wicked. That don't mean that Joe wasn't a criminal. That don't mean none of that. I mean, two things can be true at the same time. Joe Biden is and was a crook. Joe Biden is and was clearly a pervert with him sniffing on people's children's hair. And at the same time, Joe Biden is elderly and Joe Biden is sick, and we saw that, and Joe Biden is going to go bye-bye one way or the other. In order for them to move forward, Joe Biden has to go bye-bye. They cannot have him by the 2026 midterms popping up on the news media and talking and reminding the American people of what the Democratic Party did. So the book's coming out now. Everything is coming out now. Everything is unfolding right now in front of your face. And they're pushing a narrative, and they can't attack Republicans on it. They have to attack Democrats on Joe Biden's acuity is the word they're using. So I'm telling you now, prepare to say goodbye to old Joe. They ain't got no choice. He got to go away one way or the other. It just don't work with Joe in the picture. Because can you imagine on a debate stage, somebody, let's take Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer is in a race for his seat. Can you imagine the debate stage? Well, Chuck, we're trying to find out what you knew about Joe Biden and when. And then literally hanging everything about Joe Biden, his campaign, his presidency on the neck of each and every person that's running the campaign. That's what I would do if I was a strategist. And these strategists that are in the Republican Party are 10,000 times smarter than me. I can tell you they're going to hang it on their neck. So the only way to keep that from being hung on their neck is if you make it a bad thing to talk about Joe. How do you make it a bad thing to talk about Joe? Joe Biden is no longer in the picture, ladies and gentlemen. The only way to make it a bad thing to talk about Joe. Yep. I mean, this is going to kill them all. Watch this.
But come on now. Come on. Listen, I'm going to tell you this. People tried to talk about the mental acuity of Joe Biden. And as someone who was able to interact with him, I never questioned his mental acuity. But come on now. Come on, like you are crashing the economy. We are talking about record crashing of the stock market. We are talking about, you just mentioned it, the amount of people that he has fired. We are talking about people complaining and saying there is nothing at the ports. Right. We are talking about CEOs coming in and sitting down with you and saying that these shelves are going to be as bare as they were during the pandemic. Like, no, everything is a problem, not to mention Signalgate. And now you've got one of your, appointees stepping down because somebody was going to have to take the blame. Right. Now, I think it's the guy that needs, it's the guy that says he wants to have his makeup room that needs to go somewhere because at least.
That thing is so ghetto and ridiculous. She giving me black fatigue. That caterpillar eye trick giving me black fatigue. And quite frankly, I don't care how you feel about it. In fact, let me address something. I don't know what's wrong with the few black folk that come over here and feel like because you emotional about things going on that I need to be emotional because you don't have no mental clarity or mental acuity as it pertains to high level issues that I'm wrong or something wrong with me. Something's wrong with you. When you come over, I'm disappointed in you. No, I'm disappointed in your black behind that you can't see that you being played. I'm very disappointed in you. That you can't see that your whole damn life you've been played. That you can't see that this caterpillar eye trick right here with weave on, push your bras on, caterpillar eyelashes that's currently reading off a screen, off of her phone, and translating into fake ghetto talk is representing you. Whether you are Democrat or Republican, she represents you. She's the picture, the image that goes in other people's head when they think about black women. And you won't say, hey, man, this chick need to go sit down somewhere. Yeah. I'm disappointed in your black behind. Don't you dare come over here talking about you disappointed in me. Y'all picking the wrong. You picking the wrong fight with the wrong dude. I give 0 Fs. You better ask around. I've been on the YouTube a long time. I care less about what people think, but I will address you. And here's the problem that we're going to run into, and they're going to run into. Each and every person that's made a statement about Joe Biden, as we get to election season, they're going to have to answer for what they said.
And it was largely because of that debate performance back in June. You defended him in the days before and in the days after as you were campaigning for another 4 years for President Biden. Can you say that you were honest with the American people about what you saw in those moments with President Biden as you were with him again and again, repeatedly in that time?
Of course. Joe Biden is an extremely accomplished experienced and capable in every way that anyone would want if they're president.
And you never saw anything like what happened at the debate night behind closed doors with him?
It was a bad debate. People have bad debates. He is absolutely...
But that's the reason why you're here, and he's not running for the top of the ticket.
Well, you'd have to ask him if that's the only reason why.
It's a judgment question. That's why I ask. Can the American people trust you in these moments, even when it's maybe uncomfortable for Americans to level with Americans in that way? So that's why I ask. And it sounds like what you're saying is you feel like you never saw anything like that from President Biden.
I speak with not only sincerity, but with a real firsthand account of watching him do this work. I have no reluctance in saying that.
A damn liar, man. That's not true.
You got to understand, this is such a major issue, ladies and gentlemen, and they're mishandling the issue. They should have threw his behind under the bus and stumped on him. And right foot creep, woke up with the heat on him and stumped on him a long time ago. But nope. They had to try and do this because they needed the Biden administration. And here's more details on it.
You have an entire White House press corps, though, following him around. And I'm just curious as to whether or not this kind of trying to hide what was happening with the president at the time had an impact on the press corps. Like, why didn't we hear some of these details from what they actually saw and were dealing with trying to get information?
Well, Alex Thompson and I were on the case, as were lots of other reporters, trying to figure out what was going on behind the scenes. But the bottom line is the White House was lying, not only to the press, not only to the public, but they were lying to members of their own cabinet. They were lying to White House staffers. They were lying to Democratic
My bad, I'm back. Got some kids, they want to sell that candy. You dig? I'm be buying candy, but what I will do is I will give you some bread.
What's going on behind the scenes. But the bottom line is the White House was lying, not only to the press, not only to the public, but they were lying to members of their own cabinet. They were lying to White House staffers. They were lying to Democratic members of Congress, to donors about how bad things had gotten. And in fact, Alex and I started writing this book after the election of 2024. And we spoke with more than 200 people, most of whom, almost all of whom, were Democrats, and almost all of whom wouldn't be honest with us or wouldn't be candid with us until after the election. And then after the election, we found out all of these things that when you looked at what was going on with President Biden at the time, it probably doesn't surprise you the extent to which he was deteriorating. But now we have anecdotes and facts about what was really going on behind the scenes with details that Democrats wouldn't share with us until after Election Day.
So the media would have us to believe that all the times that they were on the White House Air Force One, all the times they were behind scenes at events, at every little interview they did with Joe Biden, in the pre-interviews, post-interviews, nobody knew that Joe Biden was suffering from dementia. We boo-boo the damn foo-foo. You see what I'm saying? So what the omission is, either the Democratic White House lied, or you are as dumb as a bag of rocks. Yeah. You as dumb as a rusted doorknob. That's the omission that's being made here. Either you that stupid, which if you're that stupid, then we shouldn't be listening to you, or that they're liars and you're stupid enough to believe the lies, despite everything that you've been seeing. And I believe that they feel like they got screwed. I feel like there was a meeting where they all said, hey, we're going to cover for Joe. You know what I'm saying? We're going to look out for Joe. Well, you know he's not doing too well. That's okay. We got him. We're going to take down this Trump. We all in this together. You know what I'm saying? Super friends unite. We're all together. Then somewhere along the road, something happened. And they feel like they got screwed. And now there's a war. It's a multifaceted war. But there's nothing that CNN, MSNBC, ABC, there's nothing that they could ever say that would make me believe a damn thing that came out of their mouth. They could tell me and show me an image of a giant spaceship flying over the Superdome, the Caesar Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana, and people being sucked up into the sky. And I would not believe it. I would have to leave my house, get on I-10, ride into the city, get right there before the intersection and see this damn spaceship myself before I believe anything these people ever say. And I suggest the same thing to you. You need to see the spaceship yourself. They could tell me Jesus returned and Jesus was walking down Bourbon Street, and they could show me video of Jesus healing people on Bourbon Street, and I would have to leave my house and go to Bourbon Street myself to see Jesus myself. I wouldn't believe nothing these people say. Yeah, nothing. And you shouldn't believe nothing they have to say either, because they're liars.